beloveds. I'm your host, Angela Ahimsa, broadcasting live from Toronto, and you're watching Jess TV, streaming worldwide on Roku, Meta, and the NCG television network, and of course, jessfm.ca. Today's guest is Chris Dub. He is a Kundalini yoga teacher, an intuitive healer, a plant medicine facilitator, a transformational teacher, and a social worker who supports deep, energetic, and clearing the subconscious, clearing reprogramming, and embodiment of self-love. So I've actually experienced his work firsthand, from Kundalini classes to plant medicine ceremonies, and they had a profound impact on me. And one of those ceremonies actually led to what I now call the Parasite Purge, which is a journey of purification that sparked this entire book series, Feed Your Chakras. So today we're going to be diving into Kundalini energy, trauma release, plant medicine, and the power of deep personal transformation. So I'm super excited to have you here, Chris. Thank you for joining. And would you like to open us up with some sort of breath or intention to start our session today?
Sweet. Yeah, I would love to. And one thing I do to just begin this in a very graceful way and as a way to transition is just simply to become aware of your next 3 breaths in and out. So if you just want to find a nice comfortable seated posture, lift your chest and heart up and out, draw the chin in towards the back of the neck, gently close your eyes, and again, just simply be aware of the next 3 inhales and exhales, not trying to breathe in any particular way. No need to control the breath as you relax your tailbone, relax your belly, letting the shoulders melt away from the ears, and drawing your attention to the sense of center of your beautiful heart. On the next inhale, noticing the belly soften as the belly expands, rib cage opening up, chest and heart. On the exhale, notice the chest coming in towards the spine, ribcage contracting in, belly button drawing into the spine. Each inhale, feeling space to expand, front body, side body, back body. Each exhale, contracting in, front body, side body, back body. Exhaling out the mouth on the next one. Blowing all the air out. And suspending the breath, relax the body. Soften the belly, inhaling in, deep breath in. Suspending the breath, gazing up towards your brow, inhale a little bit more. Feeling your capacity to be with whatever energy or emotion flows throughout your day, throughout your week, your month, inhaling a little bit more. And exhale, slowly releasing.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Just you're a little quiet, so just try and speak a little louder, so because I could barely hear you myself. So
okay, will do.
Thank you, though. That was really lovely. So you've done some profound inner work since 2009 when you started your journey, including spiritual sadhana, detoxing, medicine journeys. What was your first moment of awakening, and how did that change your path?
Yeah, it was very clear to me. Yeah, it was kind of one of those all of a sudden things. I definitely considered myself spiritual, but yeah, I didn't really even quite know what that is. And at the age of 23, one day at the beach, I basically just started throwing up. I just started puking, and it didn't stop. I was playing volleyball, I remember, and I really wanted to get in there, but I was just playing there because at first my stomach was like really going through a lot of pain. I had to find some place kind of near the trees, back in more of a forested area near the beach, and then it got to the point where I was throwing up bile, and that was going on for a lot longer than I was ever used to in my life. And then that ended after about 4 hours. I At that time, it was like things like French fries. I remember eating some French fries after, being like, I need to eat something. And yeah, I woke up the next day and my body was never the same. Could not
Wow.
digest food the same way. I had this like gnawing pain that was always there, literally. And in like inflammation, fatigue, all these other symptoms started to come, and especially not being able to eat the regular things, like always experiencing pain from that, and so that involved a lot of shifts and changes. But at the same time, I seemed to be becoming more in tune with my body. So I started to feel like this like electrical current whenever I'd be reading something or watching something or tuning into something that was true. I would be like, oh, when I get this feeling, that means it's true. And this was like my intuition was coming online. I was starting to get in tune with the moon cycle, something I was never aware of before, and I just seemed to know what cycle the moon was in without even like looking at anything. And yeah, it was really, really wild. That got me to change to basically go completely vegan, which I'm not anymore. But I was for over 10 years actually. It took about a year for that process to happen, and I became obsessed with consciousness. And this was none of this was there before, but I think the pain was waking me up to really be awake and aware of my body and like the flow of energy. So I wasn't going into my mind as much, and I needed to be engaged in spiritual practice. I remember I started a buy and sell business because I didn't want to like. I was thinking about like, do I need to go on welfare or something? Like I can't even work. Like this is wild. Like I was just coming out of
Wow.
school at the time, and so then yeah, I just developed my own business, and I just did what I felt I needed to do because I'm like, oh, I can't really work somewhere. I need to like just do my own thing, and then that afforded me a lot of space to just continue to dive deep and understand what was going on, just learn everything I could about what it is to live a spiritual life. I learned about self-realization, and yoga came in several years later. Um, but within the first year, I discovered mushrooms again. And I say again because I discovered them twice in high school. I had bad trips both times. Never thought I would
Hmm.
ever take them again. I remember looking at the clock. My mom took me to the hospital because she was just more worried, and I told her that I took them. And I remember looking at the clock, and she's like back and forth, back and forth. So it wasn't moving. It was telling me this like the time doesn't actually exist. It's the construct, and that really set things off when I started to experiment with mushrooms again. Because I started a very small amount because I was like quite nervous with it, and what
Hmm.
it was bringing me into was a completely healed state. It was just absolutely incredible. It's like all the pain and the discomfort would go away. My energy was just like flowing properly, and I just seemed to work with it so well. I connected with Mother Earth, realizing that she's a conscious being, and yeah, just really understanding what it is to live in the present moment. And I'll go through the other things for all the work in relation to the mushroom work later, but yeah, that's really where it started off. So I was kind of like a scientist experimenting with small amounts at first and working up in like increments, so I could really, for one, I was being cautious, but two, I just wanted to find like what was actually like a medicinal dose for me. So that's basically how it started, and it was the pain that woke me up, and what I understood later, there was a lot of repressed emotion, and my mom also had mental disorder, which they go hand in hand, and we can't
Hmm.
handle our experience emotionally. We end up disassociating from the body, and we live more within our mind. And
Hmm.
so I didn't realize how much work there was there for me to do, because I had been escaping from my body a lot more than what I realized from steroids, which I only did a few experiences with that when I was 17 and 18. My brother actually got me into it. Um, and then I remember taking a drug called Accutane because I got acne from it. And I was having a bunch of whey protein, eating a ton of meat, and just like
Hmm.
pastas. And then I was binge drinking every weekend. And like, so I didn't realize like a lot of those things were still all very normal things to do in our culture, which is
Yeah.
crazy. And it destroyed my body, and I just didn't
Hmm.
realize the direction I was going. And I'm grateful that I didn't know how much healing there was to take place, because it's been a wild journey, and I'm grateful to be where I'm at now. But yeah, it was challenging.
Yeah.
Life needs to wake you up so you don't keep going in a direction that is not good for you. So I'm very grateful that it happened.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I actually had a lot of experiments and stuff when I was younger, and
Hmm.
I did mushrooms too. And I think that the problem is when you don't do it ceremoniously, you abuse the medicine.
Hmm.
You know, too much of anything can be toxic. Um, and I actually hadn't touched mushrooms for years. I wasn't interested in doing any of that. And then actually, you facilitated a plant medicine ceremony, which I attended, and it was on my birthday, January 31st of 2020. And I don't know if you remember this, but I thought it was an ayahuasca ceremony, which is
I
why I
do.
went to do it. And I felt so called that I didn't really read the details. It just knew you were facilitating it and Andre. And so I was excited. And then I got there. And I actually feel like it was such a profound thing that I didn't know because I was supposed to. Because during that ceremony, I kept getting visions of this guide. And that is what eventually led me to writing The Parasite Purge,
Mm.
which is all about a purification of your system energetically, spiritually, physically, environmentally. Um, how do you, or how can you speak to the physical cleansing, emotional and spiritual healing, and how they intersect and how that
Yeah.
relates to plant medicine?
I feel it's directly related. They all tie together, and um, basically emotional and like the emotional trauma is held within the body, and so that's why beautiful things like yoga allow us to access these these areas, but in a way that's like graceful, in a way that is integrative. Um, so I guess I'll start with mentioning the ceremony work because I feel they're most effective at bringing these things into awareness. We don't recognize how much is being repressed. And when we start to become more aware of what we're suppressing, so repression is more of like an unconscious pushing down of emotions. Suppression is there is a consciousness around it, but sometimes we just don't know what to do because that's how we've learned how to manage, and how to get by. So when in the ceremonies we really recognize the resistance first of all to allowing ourselves to feel unconditionally, without judging so strongly what we might be feeling, as it arises. But normally the emotion and the energy, the feeling and the sensation comes first. So it's more just like getting adjusted and getting used to allowing ourselves to feel so fully, to tune into more of the richness of life. Our ability to feel pleasure, and relates directly to our ability to be able to feel our pain. And as we feel our pain deeper, it can allow us to access a certain level of ecstasy. Because if we are experiencing pain and there is a suffering there, then wouldn't we want to feel it? Wouldn't we want to know that we are suffering? And that's like the beauty of the ceremony work is, yes, it can seem like, oh, there's so many people, even probably right now, that are like ready to work with me, who are just on the edge, or they haven't done it before, and they're afraid. And
Hmm.
yes,
A lot of
because
people are afraid, actually. It's so funny.
yeah.
I
And
mean,
some
it's
people
not
are more,
funny. It's understandable, but it's just funny because of the things that they're not afraid to do that are normalized, that are so much worse for you, And then there's this medicine that nature gave us that like helps you heal your traumas, and people are afraid because it's been demonized.
exactly. And the beauty of it, where you can trust it so much, is you end up transcending the mind in particular ways. One, if you're ready to do the work, you will be able to get to see how strong the fear is in particular areas in the mind where there might be a lot of negative self-talk or things like this. Because if you can access a certain level of neutrality, which when combining yoga and using this in a ceremony space, you really can access this place of neutral seeing. It's like, hey, I just want to know what's here, and what part of me realizes that I'm not a bad person, that I am inherently lovable and loving, and that can actually just witness and see what's here. And it's that part that can give us the love that we need, but often we don't know what that is, and we don't always want to look at particular things that we believe about ourselves because we don't necessarily want to believe it's true, that we don't maybe love ourselves as much as we would like, or don't like aspects of ourselves, or really dislike certain aspects.
Hmm.
So it's an opportunity to explore all of those areas, um, while giving space for the emotion, because then there's like something, then there's something there. It's like, if I've been believing this about myself for this long, like that changes the decisions you make in life. You make different choices. You might say yes to something that aren't as in resonance. You might say no to other things that aren't, and you might just wait and pause too long in other areas where you know it's something deep in you wants to take action, but we're afraid. So by getting space to be able to really clear these things out, allows you to really get more in touch with with your true self, and to be able to be supported in your healing. You know, we're not meant to do this alone, and that's also another big part of it, is that when it's being facilitated, you have somebody there witnessing your process and giving you the love and support that you might not have gotten and needed at the times when those things first came to the surface. So they, you know, they weren't able to be alchemized or to release and to be able to move on, you know.
Hmm. So, for those that might be afraid but are feeling called to do a ceremony, what's something that they need to know before stepping into the process?
Mm. Yeah. Well, every ceremony always includes, well, first of all, a discovery call, then secondly, and then like an intake form, and then there's an intention setting call. Before that intention
So,
setting
it's a
call,
serious process. It's not just like everybody can just jump into your ceremonies.
no, no, and then there's a preparation process as well. The thing is that most people are ready, and maybe everybody's ready, but for some people it might be a smaller dose. For some people there's certain preparation that is needed, and certain things to mention, so that you kind of know the landscape. So when certain things start to come up, you're not like, oh my goodness, this is not good, or this is a bad trip. It's like, no, this is what you've been waiting for.
Mm.
This is the space for you to be able to go into those darker areas in the basement, which it isn't always like that, by the way, but it can be, you know, it's more often than not. And it's like, and you're going to be guided there. You're going to be held there. And so that you can actually sort through what's in the shadows. We spend so much time hiding. So think about it this way. If you're afraid, you're already hiding in ways. So would you like to keep hiding, or would you like something that is actually going to be revealed, that's going to
Mhm.
bring revelation, that's going to bring discovery, that's going to build courage, that's going to build strength, by a willingness to look at our weaknesses, by willingness to look at often what we're not even sure why we're actually afraid. We don't even actually know. If we inquire into it enough, often the fear is unfounded. It's just, you know, we're humans. We like to we like to find our routines. You know, we like to find comfort.
Mhm.
We like pleasure. We like these things. The fact is you're going to get more of all of that if you're willing to go into these areas. And that's why I like to talk to people first, because they need to know, like, I'm not trying to like fluff it up, you know. At the end of the day, the impact is incredible, but there needs to be a willingness, and also understanding it's not a one-stop shop. Like, you do need to be doing your work outside of the ceremony. A lot can happen in one ceremony, but you know, it's important. Like you, I know you have you're very dedicated to your sadhana, Angela, and your practice, and it's important to have certain routines, um, preferably spiritual practices, and just like a self-love and self-care routine where you're doing more of those things for yourself, and just opening up to connect with more people in your life that you feel you can be open and honest with. So already kind of setting those things up, even letting some people know that you're about to do it, and that afterwards, you know, I might want to talk about some things, or I might want some accountability held. Then afterwards, we do an integration call and sort through some things and see if there's moving forward steps or ways that I can support after that.
Okay. So, can you explain the significance of the dieta, since you mentioned like there's protocols in place,
Mm.
and just give an example of what that might be? And also, just if anybody's interested, I do meal plans for this and recipes. So, if you are struggling and you are interested, I'm your girl.
You totally are. Uh, and yeah, it's really important. Basically, elimination of processed sugar. If you still need a bit of honey or maple syrup, okay, you know, but it's like really lowering that down. All fried foods and processed foods, none of that. no meat, but if it's something that's really needed for the diet, then we say fish, and eggs can be all right. But again, if you can be all right with those things, it's even better to take those out. Most carbs are good. If you can even go grain free, that's good. But I don't go that, like, I eat that way. But that's what's mentioned there, and no dairy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It
and
kind of
then
it's similar for a lot of plant medicines, but some are a little more I want to say extreme because I don't like that word. Some are a little more strict than
yeah,
others.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the other thing, sorry, is stimulants.
stimulants.
So
And what about
yeah.
like physical relations?
Ah, yeah, no,
Because it's
that's
like an energetic cleanse too, right? You want your own energy being affected by the medicine without
yeah.
being.
So when I'm doing, like, I do containers where people work with and do several plant medicine ceremonies as well as sessions. So it's like very, very, very full circle. So in those circles, we go even deeper into that. I normally don't, to be honest, when it comes to a group ceremony, talking about relations like that. However, you're right. It is it is an important area, and sometimes I just don't want to, like, scare people with, like, too much stuff to consider. But that's a huge energy exchange and swap there.
Hmm. People don't realize like how much of an energetic exchange it is.
I
It's
know.
wild.
Imagine if we had a way to, like, actually, like, assess that and be like,
Yeah,
hey, you know, like, now you have that kind of energy flowing through you to this percentile.
yeah, I know. So that's like an example of self purification. You talk a lot about self love as this or like as a result of self purification, and not just as something that makes us feel good, but what does the embodiment of self love actually look like to you now after you've done all this
Mm,
work?
that's a great question. Yeah, I love that. Um, there's one simple thing to me is taking the time to inquire throughout each day, especially if I'm just feeling even, like, a little more wound up. Like I mentioned, even just being aware of the next three breaths type of thing. And let's even just do that now while I'm talking, because you can be aware like that. And it's so easy to be, like, habitually for our energy to move in particular ways. And so I want to check in to tune into the what a high frequency is for me in the moment. And um, that kind of flexibility has been challenging, to allow myself to consistently access. Like, what if I'm in a workflow and I'm like, hey, okay, there's another few more hours for me to do. But if I'm starting to feel like, I'm not, like, feeling this, like, to really take that pause and be like, hey, I'm gonna go to the park and I'm gonna just do some stretching. I'm gonna enjoy the sun for like 30 minutes. And honestly, like, to me, like, that is self-love. It's so easy to push ourselves when it doesn't feel good, and it's also easy to not tune in and recognize, no, I do need to push myself, or no, you know what, I want to finish this and then I want to go to the park after. But I want to be very clear. I want to be very clear on that. If there's some anxiety in the background of my experience, self-love is, I want to take the time to really understand what's going on here. And just by first, like, feeling it, getting in touch with my body. If other things aren't working, I'll get into the shower, something like that, because I'm a water sign, and so I
Mhm.
love the water to support. But I want to know what's going on, and then once I detect what that is, like, oh, there's this thing that needs to be resolved in this relationship. Normally, I'm gonna get at that sooner than later. It's like, I don't want to let these things percolate unless it is still needing time to digest. But I really notice when there is some sort of anxiousness or something that's, like, happening with inside of me, and allowing myself to really get to dealing with that sooner than later, recognize the ways in which there can still be aversion or still kind of, like, push away the harder stuff. And sometimes I'll work up to it, and again, that's even like self-love. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do a few other things, or I'm gonna let this energy digest by going to go sweep in the kitchen, or something like this. But being very aware of the energy flow. And then it's
Hmm.
also around, like, the creative stuff, which I know you've been creating so much, and it's also creating space for that when you notice something's, like, percolating. It's like, okay, how can I, let's make this more of, like, a somatic experience. Like, how can I let this energy move? When I do that, that's really huge. Because I think a lot of us, we build discipline to be like, hey, I need to do this or that during my day, and it can stifle our energy in certain ways because sometimes other things are wanting to come to the surface. We're like, no, I got to focus on this, I got to focus on that. So there's a lot of things I can share around self love, but I feel like that's kind of like the epitome is this consistent tuning in, and just the fact that I'm inquiring and like giving myself an opportunity to actually be like, hey, this is what it is, and actually attend to that. That is like that's built so much trust within myself, you know?
Wow. Okay, so what does Kundalini energy mean to you, and how does that support the process of emotional and energetic clearing?
Mm, mm. Yeah, well, that's what I realized what happened to me in my early 20s, when it's coming on very strongly. Uh, it's a spiral force. It's it's a primal force, which not everybody associates the Kundalini energy with until they really get to know. And I think it's very beautiful to contemplate this because it is an earthly force, and Drunvalo Melchizedek talks about the Kundalini of the earth and how
Hmm.
that's moved. It moved however many years ago from the Himalayas to like a mountain range in like Peru area of where it is now. And so you think about like the earth is this motherly force, and it's coming from this like gross matter, all the way up to awaken our root chakra. And by just knowing it's this like earthly force, there's a grounding and like loving energy there, and like a homely energy. And your mom, when she's dialed in, let's say the most loving version of your mother, she she is going to go at the pace that you need to go at. So Kundalini awakenings, which I won't go too far, and I'll answer your question fully, can look so many different ways, and you've probably heard some where it's like a complete blast, and other ways it can be very graceful. So it's the creative life force that basically sparks our spiritual evolution. And when the Kundalini is moving, it's different than just like um, everyday like bursts of energy and creativity, because it's not something that you can control. It's only something that you can bring more consciousness and awareness to, which means like the Shiva, it's the masculine. But this energy, when there's enough consciousness there, then it can be directed in a way that actually supports our spiritual evolution. And when it gets into those areas that's starting to like work things up and like churn things up, we can start to appreciate that more, that like this is where energy clearing is happening. And if I want to be in more creative energy, if I want to be able to let go, I need to learn to trust and surrender to this process. Like we talk about evolution, like this is literally the evolutionary force. And although Kundalini yoga can help to stimulate this, this can happen regardless of your yoga practice. If an individual is ready, it will happen. And someone could be
Hmm.
practicing Kundalini for 10 years and not have a Kundalini awakening experience.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that because, especially on social media, you see all these people having their Kundalini awakenings at these retreats. And I was just wondering what your take is on that as somebody who, you know, helps people with deep ceremonies and probably have experienced or witnessed a lot of Kundalini awakenings. How much of that do you feel is performative, or, is it like, what is your take on that? I'm just
Mm.
curious.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a case by case thing, when it comes to this. Now, there's the Kundalini activation process is probably something you've heard about, and
Yeah, because
I
some people go to retreat and they're like determined to give you a Kundalini awakening, but if you haven't done the work, like I don't even know if you can do it or if it's sustainable. I don't know. You're the expert, so I'm just asking.
yeah, yeah, for real. Well, as far as activating the Kundalini, there's certain energy that is like below the surface that can get drawn up. And
Okay,
these
actually, before we
modalities.
begin,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
some people might not even know what a Kundalini awakening is, let's just
Okay.
explain that and then we'll go into the question.
Okay. Yeah.
They're like,
Okay.
what is this thing that they
Okay.
speak of?
So yeah, they say it's referred to as a coiled snake at the base of the spine, and you can look at this metaphorically if it's easier for some of those that are listening. Uh, wrapped around the spine three and a half times, and as that energy unfurls and spirals up the spine, it helps to activate our chakras. But it needs to go through each one in a way so that energy gets balanced. So the very last thing you want to do is like overstimulate the Kundalini. It's meant to flow in a particular way. Just look at this in the way of when we of how we learn and how we best learn. It doesn't work to just keep punishing ourselves when we're learning. It doesn't work to move too quickly. It doesn't work to move too
Hmm.
slowly either. But so it's our ability to be able to digest this because it's a higher frequency, so our bandwidth needs to be increased. Our thresholds need to be increased in order to hold this energy. If you can't handle a certain voltage, it's just going to fry you, and you're not actually going to be able to hold the frequency of that energy. So Kundalini awakening means when it happens very spontaneously for an individual, they are ready for this higher voltage, and it can be for some a very terrifying experience. Um, Others, it can be incredibly ecstatic and blissful. For many, everything in between. But for most, there is periods of like dark night of the soul, and some for quite a while, because it's starting to lift into the consciousness, the subconscious, beginning to remember our spiritual nature. Our intuition comes online, but we're also recommending the challenging things that in past lifetimes and in this lifetime that we might not have been able to completely process on our own. So it can be a very delicate process in this way. I don't really have a certain amount of time for the interview, so I don't want to go into too much. But there's a lot I could say about,
It's okay.
you know. Uh, but yeah, just I think that gives enough of a feel.
Cool. Okay, and if somebody is just waking up to the realization that they've been emotionally repressed their entire life or closed off energetically, what would be the first daily shift or sadhana that they can make?
Mm, very good. Well, there's three essentials, and we're just talking about like the basics. Movement. There's some level of movement that has to be happening every single day, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, if you can, maybe not every day, but at least 4 or 5 times a week, that there's some sweating that's involved, because especially for like energy clearing, the body needs to sweat. But even just doing 10 or 15 minutes of movement, do something right in the morning so that the body can just get loosened up, even if it feels uncomfortable. Some sort of breath practice is vital. We need to be using our breath more often, because it's what can help to regulate our entire system, regulate our nervous system, help us to find deeper concentration and focus. So some type of movement, breath practice, and just drinking more water. I would say those are like the three essential things. Now I can mention more of the stuff that you could do in that, but even if you're just like shaking your body, doing some
Yeah.
dynamic stretching, and then just doing a few static stretches, like that's already really really great. And then spending at least 5 minutes or so doing a breath practice. And then if you can, the final thing would be to sit in silence. And for some people, that's just starting off as a few minutes, but it's very important to give this space. It Especially at first, it will be challenging. There's still some days where it's challenging for me to just sit, and that's okay, because that is going to develop your concentration, and you won't get distracted as much, in everything else you do. You'll be able to notice what's happening there, and you'll be able to notice what you need to attend to that you might not be attending to, um, and just recognizing, hey, I need to slow things down a bit. I got a lot going on. We all need that space to be able to tune in. So having this daily, those three things, the movement, the breath practice, the silence, and then the drinking, just simply drinking more water.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And those are all free things,
Mm-hmm.
and they're actually so simple, but so overlooked and not practiced enough. And also water, not all water is created equal. So try to get good quality water, or at least fluoride free if you're going to do anything. That'd be my recommendation.
Yeah, I got the Berkey filters. Berkey is legit. I'd highly
Yeah.
recommend.
Do you add salt to your water?
Sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
I actually, I find I drink a lot more water if it has some sort of flavor, because I'm a flavor person. I like food and taste. But if people like don't like to drink water, just try throwing some cucumber and mint in it. It makes it so much more tasty and refreshing, and just makes it. I drink a lot
For
more water that way.
sure. And like I have a lemon squeezer. I put lemon with a bit of salt or honey.
Yes.
I got these like for more Ayurvedic. I got a turmeric, ginger, and lemon. And I put them in cubes in the freezer. Then it's put it in the
Ooh,
morning
love
with
it.
some hot water. It stimulates digestion. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the importance of spiritual hygiene. So, we've kind of talked a little bit about detoxing the body to clear energy fields. What practices do you personally use to stay energetically pure and aligned?
Mm-hmm. Lots.
I bet.
Definitely lots. Well, of course, the Kundalini yoga practice, like that's, I think that's pretty obvious and evident. Um, and then in the morning, I always do some kind of yoga flow, whether that be Babaji Kriya Yoga or some more of the 3HO Kundalini Yoga, usually blend in with some kind of Hatha or Vinyasa. Always taking that moment. Maybe not all. I should say always, probably take 99% of the time. Space for a silent sit. Sometimes I can only get in 5 or 10 minutes, but I make sure to get in at least that. Space for prayer is very essential for me. I pray every night, and I bring prayer into each and every day. I realize it's settling things down enough just to like recognize some level of stillness
Hmm.
and silence. And prayer to me is a space where you can conceive and even seed and impregnate uh, the frequency in which you're looking to tune into. But there needs to be a level of silence and stillness to even inquire enough to be able to tune into what that is. So prayer gives us a space to be able to find what maybe previously wasn't there, like an extra level of strength, the extra level of courage of what we need. So it's also a space, a sacred space that we can come to, that we can be vulnerable and open with ourselves. And it's like from here that we can be like emboldened and to allow our own light to flow through, because often we can be afraid of our own light. So the prayer practice is like really essential for me. Working with mushrooms is as well quite essential. I do about once a month, I'll do a macro dose ceremony, and I don't work with microdosing as often, but still probably once or twice a month. I'll do a micro, but the ceremony work is really key for me. I do work with ayahuasca as well. I do also run a plant medicine facilitator mentorship, teaching people how to run these ceremonies. So then I'll receive from the students at times as well. And yeah, I feel like I trust the mushrooms. Like I trust it so much, and it just helps
Hmm.
me get right up to date and to be able to clear any of the muck out and to ask questions and to really work through more challenging stuff. So I feel like
Hmm.
that definitely supports a lot. And then I do a lot of I do a lot of sweating. I make sure I get time in the sauna. If it's not the sauna, it's hot yoga and cold plunging, or all things that I enjoy. And float tanks, which I know me and you had that
Yes.
experience there. I absolutely love floats. Yeah.
We had a mushroom ceremony in a float tank. Well, we were each in our own little compartment, but that was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay. So you teach reprogramming and deprogramming. What are the biggest energetic or mental blocks that you see in people today? And how can we help dissolve them?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So I'll go into it, but I'll just kind of like take this thread of self worth and not enoughness, because I feel like at the core, there can be quite a bit of that, because for most of us, there actually, and let's say all cases, but there's actually likely more love, and anybody who's listening to this, more love in their life than what we might be able to actually like be presently aware of, and to be able to receive. And it's not because it's not there. It's because um, the areas in which we are really needing and desiring love are also the areas in which we can hide ourselves from getting that love, because it is the place where it is most vulnerable, or we're insecure, where like, yeah, like this is the way, I don't want you to see me here, but I actually need you to see me here, and it's so much a relationship with ourselves. So as we get more acquainted with that, but that we could just like slowly allow ourselves to be seen by each other more, and not expecting more out of another. So this belief system around, oh, I need to be doing more, or I need to be doing something, or I need to make sure I have more discipline here, or whatever it is, in order to receive the love that I need. It's a lot of the reprogramming is opening up to be met in the areas that you are needing to be loved now. So the not enoughness and the self-worth is a big one. That why I wanted to go into that first is because that can just block so many other areas. You don't always want to become aware of your limiting beliefs, especially if it's an area that you really want to be stronger in. Like if you don't believe that, you know, in your career, let's say like this next book is going to sell really well,
Mm-hmm.
if there was a part of you that believed that it wouldn't, you wouldn't necessarily want to look at that. So
Yeah.
it's first to look at the shame, and then once that is more uncovered, uh, a lot of it is just doubt that those in our life will continually show up for us,
Mm-hmm.
that we'll actually get the love that we need. And so most people then end up asking or needing or wanting things from other people, not realizing that's the kind of love they're looking to receive and get from themselves. And when they don't get it from somebody else, then they get upset, not realize that, but you're not giving it to yourself. You're not even really open to it. You're just trying to control to get it in some way that you feel that you need it, but it's not actually how you need it. And that's that's where it becomes very, very, very interesting. um,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about accepting reality as it is,
Yeah.
and to be able to accept reality as it is means that we need to be able to accept ourselves as we are. And again,
Mm-hmm.
this meeting place. But hey,
Yeah. It's like
back
the
to this
shadow
meeting.
work. It's like shining a light on the darkness and then finding what that fear is, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And then everything you want is actually on the other side of that fear. Simply
Exactly.
put. Told you it was that easy.
Yeah. So the other belief is most people believe they can't have exactly what they want. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that most people think that if they get exactly what they want, they'll be happy, not realizing that exactly what they want might not actually be exactly what they need. So
Mm-hmm.
then there's this whole like conundrum where you don't even think you can really get it, and it's like, but that's not the actual thing.
Yeah.
That's where the surrender to acceptance to what is. Nothing can change unless you accept reality as it is right now and accept yourself as you are right now. So like
Yes. Or
that's
you
the
also
work.
experience an upgrade in like values and wants too. So it's like a never ending process of self betterment.
Exactly, because as soon as you meet yourself, then those upgrades can literally just start coming right there, and we're so used to
Yeah.
being like, well, no, I have to do more. There's got to be
Hmm.
something else, It's like no.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting close to the end here, but you did mention that you practice daily prayer. So, what is your prayer for the collective right now? If you could plant one seed of consciousness into everyone listening, what would that be?
Hmm. Yeah, to me, it would be to recognize that we don't have to be so concerned with the outer world changing. We don't have to be so concerned with certain things, even politically or at higher levels, needing to change in order for us to be happy and for us to continue to grow and evolve as humanity. I'd love for every individual to recognize that all we need to focus on is opening up to love, opening up to receive love, and opening up to give love in the way that feels good for you. Opening up to see more ways in which you might not be aware of now in which you can give love to others, and also to be able to open up in more ways to see where you may need love and recognize that you have the strength and the beautiful aliveness and feeling of being alive that comes from allowing the light to shine into the areas that are really needing it. And not just from others, even though we can say, all is one, all is God, but like to recognize that your own light is enough.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to be fed by that, to be nourished by that, and to not be so afraid of your darkness, to allow gentleness and compassion to come in as more challenging areas come up, so that you can slow things down enough to be able to be with your moment by moment experience. I truly do wish that all beings can find peace and stillness within their heart, and can trust that life is truly always working for our highest evolution. And that doesn't mean that things won't be challenging, but there's life can come in so many different varieties, and may we learn to be present and open to whatever is here, so that we can handle life and feel that we can handle life as it is, and so that way we can release control and appreciate what is here now, and experience more love by simply just being present, than thinking that we need to be doing so much more in order to be worthy of it.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you from the depth of my heart for sharing your truth, your tools, your grounded presence today, and your journey, and just for the space that you held for all of us. It's pure medicine. And to everyone watching or listening, if you felt something stir within you during this episode, or if you're feeling called to clear, awaken, or align with your soul's path, I invite you to explore more of Chris's work. You can find him on Instagram. I think it's Chris Dub Energy. Is that right? Is it Kundalini?
Chris Dub Kundalini.
Kundalini, yes. I'll put the links in my description, and for any upcoming retreats or ceremonies or mentorship opportunities that he is guiding. And if this episode moved you, please share it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow me, the Chakra Goddess, on Instagram for sacred conversations on healing, energy, and embodiment. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Namaste.
We got next on this video show. So stay tuned every Tuesday night, 10 p.m. right here on Jess TV.
Yes, it's your man
And your girl.
and your gal.
That's right.
All right.
Boom, peace. Let's have some fun.
Let's have some fun.
Yes. All right.
Black out if they act out. Yeah, I did that. Hey, what's up, though?
Well, it's your gal Yaya, and you're here on Yaya's channel. Just kidding. We are here with the great J.U. Get over.